afternoon and welcome. My name is Yemi Folari. I'm the Education Program Officer at HEE, and I'm also an apprentice on the Project Data Analytics with Projecting Success. Thank you very much for joining us today at the NHS Project Futures Compass today. Just before I hand over to James Smith, I'd like to let you know of the virtual format for today. On the right side of the screen, you'll see a panel detailing the chat and the Q&A. Please use the chat for comments and use the Q&A to put your questions to James as you think of them. A game code will have been given on screen at the beginning of this session for arriving on time. You can write this down in the notes tab on the right-hand side of the screen. We will also be giving you a game code at the end of the session. Now I'll hand over to James. Towards the end of the presentation, there'll be a Q&A, depending on number of questions. There will be a poll to ask James more questions if there are enough questions. Now I'd like to introduce James. James is the Chief Technology Officer at Projecting Success, and he's also one of the tutors for the apprenticeship program. James, welcome.
Thanks, Yemi, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here. I'm so excited. Today we're going to be talking about an introduction to project data analytics. So Yemi's done a bit of my introduction for me, so Dr. James Smith, I am the Chief Technology Officer at Projecting Success. Projecting Success is a data analytics consultancy. We're trying to change the world of project delivery, ensuring projects are delivered on time and on budget using data as much as we possibly can. So a little bit about my experience. I've got more than 10 years experience working with data and analytics, machine learning, and modeling. I've got a PhD in applied mathematics and a few other degrees in maths as well. And I'm an ex-university mathematics lecturer. I'm currently a Neo4j engineer, which means I work with kind of graph databases, highly connected data. As Yemi said, I do tutor on our level 4 apprenticeship in data analytics, and I'm also a data scientist as well. So what we're going to be talking about this afternoon, I want to go through these 5 points really. So I'm going to introduce you to project data analytics and tell you exactly what it is. I'm going to tell you what it's for. I'm going to tell you who it's for. Then we're going to look at a few case studies, a few interesting things that's happening, because a lot of us are right at the beginning of their journey. Let's leave it like that for now. And then I'm going to talk about how you can start your own journey as well, wherever you sit in your organization, whatever your role is, how you can get involved if you think that we're really onto something with data-driven project delivery. So we'll start off, like I said, talking about what is project data analytics. At some point, I'm going to start saying PDA. You can imagine how often we start to abbreviate these things within Projecting Success. So if I do say PDA, it's because I'm just saving myself a little bit of time. So if you look at this image near the top right-hand corner of my slides, this is the program information for Crossrail. So the technical information is relatively well captured and reused. So things like the asset inventory, the drawings, designs, models, etc. That's all okay. What we're really interested in at Projecting Success is the control information. So the schedules, the costs, the contract administration, the change control data, the risk data, the financial control data. That's what we really see is an exhaust plume from a project. It's not reused. Each project is seen as a totally unique venture, and we really don't use what we've captured on one project with regards to the control information to help improve the performance of the next project. So fundamentally, what we're trying to do with project data analytics is leverage the experience from our portfolio to improve future project delivery performance. And something that people, I guess, a common misconception is that project data analytics is just dashboarding. You're just building dashboards and automating reporting. And that's really not the message I'm trying to convey. We're not just building dashboards on top of the existing kind of data structures we've already got, and taking away kind of paper-based reporting and digitizing it. It's so much more than that. So we're really not, just generating Word documents anymore. We're project data analytics refers to the capturing of data, the transformation of that data on servers using, certain tools like Python, the storage of the data, how we can automate tasks, how we host information and data in the cloud, and also the analysis of that data, how we extract insights from it. But also, the strategy to get from where we are today to where we need to be, and the skills that we need to do that as well. And the diagram I've got on the right-hand side is the Gartner analytic value escalator. And it really sort of describes the maturity of all organizations. And really, the industries that we're working with at the moment are sat very much in the kind of descriptive, possibly diagnostic stage. I was watching one of the talks earlier on, and we were talking about project managers looking backwards. And that is absolutely my experience. We're always talking about what were the numbers for the last quarter, generating reports for historic information. We should be looking out the front, working towards, what will happen, how can we make it happen? So I think that is so pertinent, something we can all really relate to, and you can immediately kind of classify where our role and where our organization is. And this is what project data analytics is about, helping us move towards the right-hand side of that diagram. But what is it for? And I'm going to look at that specifically with respect to companies and industries to start off with, before we look at it from a personal perspective. So this is a piece of research conducted by Bent Fluvier and Alex Budzier as part of the Oxford Side Business School. So piggybacking a bit off of their research, they've got a huge portfolio of projects that they've collected, nearly 12,000. And I guess some of the conclusion of their research is that 0.5% of those nearly 12,000 projects are completed on budget, on time, on benefits or better, which is a pretty shocking statistic. And the thing is, this hasn't really changed much in the last 20 years. If you think 1 in 200 projects are actually delivering what they signed up to, is, we just don't think it's good enough. And we really believe data is the way to improve that statistic. Projecting success, we also believe that projects, certain types of projects, I should say, are predisposed to variance. And you can see this again from Alex and Bent's research. If you look at the mean cost overrun, so the second column of data there, and we look at Olympics, nuclear power, dams, IT buildings, we could say with a relatively high certainty that given a new project of that type, you'd have a pretty, you could say, pretty concretely there would be a cost overrun just because of all the projects that we've looked at in the past. And the same thing with the schedule overrun, just looking at these nuclear power, dams, IT, thermal, road projects. Again, a new project, you could be pretty certain that it would overrun in terms of what we predicted with the schedule. Now, this doesn't tell us anything about the causality. We just know that these projects are predisposed to certain types of variance. We need to look at the connected data, the things like the work breakdown structure, the conditions, the value, the team, all of that information that we spoke about right at the beginning of the presentation. We need to look at that, digest it, analyze it, pull the insights out of it, and understand, why these projects are actually going wrong. And part of it is that we're not estimating properly, but also part of it is we're not working efficiently. We're not looking out the front. We're not using historic data to understand the problems that are on the horizon. We're too focused on looking behind us. So that's why we're doing it. That's why we're actively pursuing project data analytics for companies and for industries. But what about the kind of personal benefit? And Yemi at the beginning of this session said that she's on our level 4 data analyst apprenticeship with Projecting Success. And I just wanted to ask Yemi to answer the question of how the course has really helped you since you started.
Hi everyone again. For me, it's the confidence and being able to sort of demonstrate what I have actually learned on the course and being accountable to myself and my tutors. So I've learned about SQL, which I had no idea how to sort of navigate my way around. So SQL, Python, Power Apps, Power Automate, even Excel, and just being able to share that knowledge with my colleagues at work, and also the confidence and the insights I can gain from anything, really, from anything I've, it got me thinking about data and the project delivery in a completely from a different perspective. So the learning is still ongoing. It's challenging. There's a lot to take on, but definitely I think your confidence and how you look at data in terms of project delivery it'll never be the same, because you draw insights from almost everything, really, and the tutors are really supportive. And also with the apprenticeship, we get the opportunity to join the hackathons as well, which are really valuable in terms of networking with colleagues and just meeting people and sharing knowledge and experiences as well. So yeah, that's how it's helping me so far. And I'm sure it'll take me further as well with my data analytics.
Thanks so much, Yemi. I think there's loads to pick up on there. Certainly, we're going to talk about the hackathons in a few minutes' time. So I'll give a bit of background and context into what they are. But I really think that learning about kind of immersing yourself in data analytics and kind of overcoming some of those barriers, some of those intimidation barriers, kind of early on, you can start to understand that these things are accessible to people. And what I want to show you later on is that how some of the tools that are being used in data analytics at the moment are actually so much more accessible than they were 10 years ago. And they're really not, reserved for people with, 15 years experience developing apps, because people can kind of pick things up and use them now very quickly. But thank you so much, Yemi. I really appreciate that. Here are some quotes as well. I'm not going to read all of these out, but these are, I guess, I get some additional sort of benefits that people are getting from the course. Really what we're seeing is like a mindset change. People that are pursuing data analytics, not just on, the level 4 data analyst apprenticeship, but it's really that questioning if something is being done in the right way. Can we automate it? Can we make this more efficient and more productive? I think that is just an overwhelming kind of force for change, really. So I keep talking about upskilling and learning about data analytics and applying it to projects, but really, who is it for? So you can see there's a standard organizational chart on the left-hand side. I really believe wherever you sit on this spectrum, you need to engage in these things. So you need to understand about project data analytics. If you're near the top and you want to sort of define, I guess, your strategy, your roadmap, how much these things are going to cost your sponsors. If projects are going to transition into kind of predictive and prescriptive analytics, then the people that are defining the strategy and the management, you really need to know what's possible. But then equally, if you're nearer the bottom, then like I said, the likes of Microsoft are making these tools really accessible, and they're not just reserved now for the specialist teams, data science and automation teams. They're really federating development, and it's a really exciting time. A few years ago, it was kind of the baseline to be proficient with IT, and then it was the baseline to be proficient with Office. I really think the baseline now, on CVs, you're going to start seeing you're proficient with these data analytics tools. The Office suite is no longer just Word and PowerPoint and Excel. Now it's, Power BI and Power Apps and Power Automate, and even, some kind of programming languages as well. So I'm going to talk about some case studies. Yemi, you already mentioned Project Hack. And so I'm just going to talk about, a few things that are happening in a few different industries. So We've got our hackathon events. This is the 14th hackathon that we'll be running. The NHS and HEE have been involved in the last 3 or 4 hacks, which is absolutely brilliant. But what we try and do, I'll explain what they are. It's a 2-day event, and we get our community, which is the project data analytics community. It has about 8 or 9,000 members of the public. These are data scientists, data engineers, data analysts, coders, machine learning engineers, but also project professionals. So project managers, quantity surveyors, etc. And we put all of those people together to solve real world problems. The problems actually come from our apprentice learners. And then these teams of people that are motivated and enthusiastic about these things solve them over the course of 2 days. And then they present their solution. And then the learner will take that minimum viable product back to the company and then work towards kind of publishing it or deploying it within their company. They're absolutely amazing events. I highly recommend that you come along to one of our events. That we have a virtual event in April, but the one after that we are hoping will be a physical event. Again, if you want to know more about them, best to link in with me. I will put my LinkedIn details at the end and you can hear more about our hackathons, but they really are there's such a good way to get involved in project data analytics. We had nearly 250 people at the last event in London. That was back in February. And I will talk about a few different projects, I guess, what we call them challenges that have been tackled as part of the hacks as well. So this is a quote from the Global Head of Data and Insights and Analytics. This is a senior director at Gleeds. And they say that the hackathons have provided us with a mechanism for our digital transformation within Gleeds. It's accelerating our digital maturity and creating a real buzz. And what Gleeds have done is really smart. They've got learners on the course, on the apprenticeship with us, and they've used that 4 or 5 times to bring problems, real problems from Gleeds to the hackathon. They've solved them over the course of 2 days. And then this senior director has really driven those solutions and got them deployed. So they've got turbocharged their development and their innovation within Gleeds using the hackathon as a vehicle. So tremendous benefit, something that, I'm really, really proud of. The NHS joined us at Project Hack 11. I believe that was back in September last year. We had a physical event, believe it or not. We had over 170 attendees from all different sectors. We had an NHS challenge. We actually had 5 teams working in parallel trying to solve an NHS challenge. It was really exciting that one of the NHS teams actually won as well. This is the winning dashboard that they developed. And the challenge was all around understanding the project profession workforce in the NHS. So I understand there are 10,000, not sure if they're project professionals or project managers. But it was really just understanding that workforce, understanding their location, understanding their grades, their roles, even some of their EDI metrics as well. They did such a great job of displaying and visualizing that information and providing insights. Like I said, they were the winning team. They did win some Amazon vouchers, which again was brilliant. Another example, so slightly different, so not to do with healthcare, but this is from the construction company Costain. They use these PDF books to draw up costs, I guess, for aspects of their jobs. They called it the Spons book. It means nothing to me, but they essentially wrote a piece of code to translate the book into a database, and then they built a tool to quickly calculate the cost of things. And it took them, so a traditional method for costing something would take 40 minutes. With this new tool, the Power App solution they built would take 5 minutes, which is 8 times cost saving, which is absolutely enormous. Again, they did really well at that hackathon. Another example, Project Hack 6, we had the company Baker Hughes, an engineering, procurement and construction company, and they wanted to build, this is quite a high-end solution they developed. It was a machine learning solution, but they wanted to build a model to help them predict their activity duration variance. So if they're plugging wells in the North Sea, how long is that going to take them? And this model was something, I think it was 76% more accurate than the current way that they had of actually building those. So again, 2 teams worked on this alongside each other. One of the winning teams developed the model, and then we worked with Baker Hughes to put this into production for them. So again, incredibly beneficial for the likes of those companies. So I've spoken a bit about tools. I keep talking about Power Apps and Power BI, a few different ones. I'm just going to very quickly talk about and give some examples of how Power BI and Power Apps can be used. So Power BI, maybe you've got no idea what it is. I'm not quite sure on what the audience is, but I'll start from the beginning. So it's visualization software. It's very similar to something like Tableau or Domo, if you have any experience of those. It's really taken off because Microsoft have developed Power BI desktop. You can go straight to the store and download it. If you hit the Windows key, go to the store, search Power BI, you can start building dashboards to your heart's content. The only thing you can't do is share them if you don't have the right licensing option, but you can do all the learning, all the dashboard creating. You just can't necessarily share them with colleagues. And they have an immense range of connectors. We shouldn't be building dashboards that just connect to static Excel files. That's not what we should be doing at all. We should be using live data stored in the cloud. And I've got an example of why dashboarding through the likes of Power BI has really taken off in the last few years. And I'll show you why that is. And it's just because it's become so accessible to people. I've got an example here. I'm just going to pull some data in using an API. So this is a web URL that connects to a government database that's got coronavirus data stored in it. It's just a SQL server. And the API I've built using a government guide on the website. It's relatively straightforward to do, and it's all publicly available. So I just go to get data. I want to get data from the web. I paste my link in there. I click OK. Hopefully you can see this, and the bottom and the top of the page haven't been trimmed off too much. You wait for a moment. It's taking me to another page. I just tell Power BI that this is JSON data. That's a very common format of API data that you get back. And I just click on that data list there. I'm going to convert this to a table. So I'm doing no coding here. I'm just clicking. I'm going to expand these records because these are all the attributes that I want. See, I've already pulled in, this is live data. So I close this, take me back to the reporting stage, and then I'm just going to change a few of the data types in the data because I know it reads them in incorrectly. Just wait for it to create and load that model, load that data into the model. So I'm just going to, let's do the date first. It says this data type is text. We can see it's clearly a date, so we just change that in there. And then this field here is again meant to be numerical, but it just says text. So we just change that to whole number. This is the new cases. These are just coronavirus cases, live information. Again, we're going to change that. We don't want it to be text. Change it to a whole number. And then I can show you how quickly it is to just start building some visualizations. So I'm just going to plot a line chart for us. And what I'm going to plot along the x-axis, I'm just going to plot the date, and then I'm going to plot the cases and the death numbers against that as well. And then what I can do is actually, this is plotting it as a hierarchy. I'm just going to plot each date individually. You can see this is the start of the pandemic when the testing, we hadn't really developed the testing at all at this point. So the numbers were considerably higher than this. This was the first This is, I guess, the second wave we had around the beginning of 2021, kind of Christmas time. And this is the wave we've just had with the previous Christmas, the start of 2022. And you can see if we look right onto the right-hand side, the latest piece of data there is the 28th of February. Maybe we do even have the 1st of March. And the great thing is if I refresh this, I get the latest copy of data. This is live data that's coming in from a database in a totally secure way. We could publish this to a website or to a SharePoint site and set it to automatically refresh. So we're not building static dashboards, and we're building live dashboards, live reporting, and just that's how easy it is. Hopefully that was an interesting demonstration to show you. I said I was going to talk about Power Apps. I keep mentioning this tool, but we haven't really said what it is. So it's a service for creating business apps across lots of different platforms. So you can build apps for, I guess, saying you're out of office, or maybe an app that accompanies you when you're conducting an interview. So you write your questions in it and the answers. You could build an app for booking annual leave, anything that really where you're collecting information from your employees, you can build apps. And like I said earlier on, and at risk of repeating myself here, this is no longer reserved for people with 15 years experience building these apps, because you can build them in just a few minutes using almost no coding at all. This is something that we teach on the apprenticeship, and Yemi's got experience of building these apps now, and you can build them, share them, collaborate with your colleagues on them as well. It really is, we're reaching an era where development with apps and automation is just being federated more and more every single day. So how you can start your journey, and you've got a few great options here. So this is what I really want you to kind of take away from today's session. You might be thinking, okay, maybe James is onto something with data-driven project delivery, but what do I do with it? So we've got our meetup community, and of course there are other meetup communities. Ours is specifically about using data in projects. Again, the best thing you could do is Google the Project Data Analytics community, or add me on LinkedIn and I can point you in the right direction. And we have presentations every couple of weeks on there. They're obviously all remote. So you can dial in and keep up to date with what the environment agencies are doing. For example, that's one of the next talks we've got. That's the community really that feed the hackathons, which is the next thing I would encourage you to get involved in. The hackathons, I appreciate that I am biased, but I do really recommend them. Even if you don't want to, turn up and hack, so to speak, if you don't feel like you've got anything to necessarily add into those teams, I'm sure you have, but you can, turn up and just peer over people's shoulders as a bit of an observer and see what's going on. Like I said, you've got 250 people in a room, pulling together, building apps, building automation, working on machine learning code, building algorithms. It is an amazing place to spend a couple of days, and I do highly recommend that you do check them out. And then upskilling as well. I think you've got a few different options with upskilling. Like I said, it's important for everyone, whether you're, junior or senior. Really, people need to know what's possible. And that's why I was going to give you a few different options for how you can upskill. So do you want to do kind of ad hoc or experimentation with your upskilling? I think this is brilliant. Sources like Stack Overflow, YouTube, Udemy are amazing. Always look on Udemy for free courses as well, and you can get something really tailored to what you need. It can be on demand. Just be wary that it's not outdated, and it can be a bit isolating, and you need to be so committed to it, because it will be lower down on your priorities because you've not necessarily committed at this point. So you might run out of steam. That's probably the biggest drawback. That you could look at something more kind of strategic and committed, some slightly more structured chaining. Of course, these can be Really great because you've got people to talk to, you can have proper support. You get to learn best practice from experts as well. Again, some of the Udemy courses here are really kind of branching into the strategic and committed level, especially if it's, you know, a course that's going to take you 2 or 3 months. But investing in yourself and in your team and is absolutely going to pay dividends. It really could shape your career, you know, for the next 10 years. And with that said, that's everything I wanted to say this afternoon. There are a few QR codes on my screen. The QR code on the left is for a flyer about a bit more upskilling if you're interested in that. So please do take a screenshot of that or point your phone at that QR code. And the QR code is on the right is for my LinkedIn details. So if what I've said has really kind of caught your imagination this afternoon and you're interested in whether it's the meetup, the hackathons, or upskilling more in general, or you just want to have a discussion around data-driven project delivery, then please do add me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to have a discussion around any of those points and point you in the right direction for resources, etc. I invest a lot of my time trying to find, I guess, efficient and good ways for people to kind of keep their finger on the pulse with these things. I'm very active on social media as well. So hopefully if you're interested in this, then my feed will provide you with some good tips and tools as well. So thank you so much for listening. And I was hoping that Yemi's got a few questions that have been pouring in. You're.
Thank you, James. Right, we have a question. I'm hoping people will drop their question in the chat or use the Q&A. Someone wants to know if there's a short course or introduction to data analytics.
I think data analytics in general, I would say something like Udemy is probably your best bet. Again, I'm giving presentations all the time on very short courses, taster courses into data analytics. So I would say probably link in with me. I gave a presentation yesterday on basically a more practical introduction to data analytics and projects. So I'm always posting about my next presentation. I'm giving them sort of on a weekly basis. So as long as this has been the kind of right sort of style for you, but you want something more practical, then I would just say keep an eye on my feed, and hopefully something will there will be something that's a bit more relevant. I would have thought a bit more practical in the coming days, to be honest. I don't know if there are any more questions, but please keep your questions flooding in, and Yemi's going to be processing them and then reading them out. So we've got a few minutes, I think, to roll through some questions.
Yep, there's a couple more questions coming in. Okay, there's a question here asking, what is your view on the future of data and AI in healthcare?
I guess some of the terms that you hear are very much buzzwords these days. You know, we're always talking about machine learning, artificial intelligence. People don't necessarily know what they mean. They know it's the future, quote unquote, but we don't really know how that's going to kind of pan out over the next, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. I think at the moment, the examples we use are quite isolated when we're using machine learning. So we use them for kind of image recognition or text classification. But I really believe that in 100 years' time, the way in which we say deliver a project will be radically different because of machine learning. I really think that we will have artificial intelligence helping us make decisions, and really informing our decision making all the way along. It will be totally unrecognizable to what we do today.
Thank you, James. There's another question here asking, what are the requirements to enroll in the course? I'm guessing it's the apprenticeship.
Was that what are the requirements for?
To enroll onto the course, yeah.
You need to be working 30 hours a week. And you need to be living in England for 50% of your time.
Thank you. There's another one here. I'll be interested in someone coming to speak to our team a bit more about this. Is that possible?
Absolutely, yeah. I would say as something I do on a regular basis. I do appreciate a lot of my answers are the same here, but I would say please just link in with me and fling me a message, and we can absolutely set something up. I do quite a lot of taster sessions, where I'll in an hour or 2 hours, we'll talk about what you can do with Power BI, what you can do with Python, what you can do with Power Automate, how to build an app in 6 minutes, just to get people interested. So yeah, please reach out to me. We can, I'm sure we can set something up and do something for your individual teams, not a problem.
Another question is about the apprenticeship. How do I access the apprenticeship?
Again, if you just, best thing to do is reach out to me. I can put you in touch with, there's the flyer on my screen, so the QR code. Make sure you do take a picture of that. It should provide you with loads of information, but just reach out to me and I can immediately connect you with the right people in my team. We can also discuss upskilling more generally, but yeah, just reach out to me and I'll connect you with our learning and development team, not a problem.
Thank you, James. One question is, can a PM attend the hackathon?
Oh, I'm so sorry, Yemi. Just try that one again. You're quite quiet, my end.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. So the question is, can a PM attend the hackathon?
Absolutely. We've had, we could do with more project managers there. So one thing I would say is that the idea of like a data hackathon can be quite intimidating. Please don't feel intimidated. I know that's easy for me to say and difficult for you not to feel, but really the community is such a nice atmosphere, and there is so much for people with different skills to contribute. The project managers can manage the team. They can also provide the domain expertise. It really complements the skills that we get from the other side of the community. So if you just put a load of data scientists together, they won't have the kind of business knowledge in order to build the right solution. You also need to complement it with all different types of skills. So yeah, please don't feel insecure if you're not working with Python and building machine learning code and deploying automation across your business. You're still you can still contribute absolutely massive, just as much, in my opinion, as the technical people. You're just as important. So please do come along to the hackathons. And I would say if you want to come to your first event, my advice would be come to one of our face-to-face hacks, because then you can do a bit of networking and it's easier to observe what's happening as opposed to breakout rooms within teams. So the next physical one is in May. We've got a special venue, which I'm not sure if I'm allowed to reveal, so I won't, just in case I get in trouble. But I'm sure that it's going to be an amazing hackathon. Again, link in with me. You'll soon see some of the details for it, or just fling me a message and I can send you all the latest details through Meetup.
Thank you, James. We have a very interesting question here. Where do you see the real benefits for linking analytics and project management?
I think the real benefits come from something that I've already mentioned, really. I guess it's the idea of freeing up a project manager's time. I think sort of releasing their capacity a bit. I know project managers spend a lot of time building trackers and actually I really think if you had tools and mechanisms at your disposal to help you see what's coming, and project managers had enough automation and had the tools at their fingertips so they could stop looking backwards and look forwards, then it would completely revolutionize the job of a project manager. Project managers, the job is not going anywhere, but I think that there is, I think data analytics and machine learning will really change the role, quite significantly, for the better over the next few years. But it's important that project managers are aware of what's happening around them. There are so many project management tools that really heavily rely on data and making connections between data. So yeah, it's really important that project managers stay, I guess, plugged into these things as well.
One final question is, on average, how many hours per week study is being done outside the working week?
For the apprenticeship?
Apprenticeship, yes.
So the course is 20% of your time. So outside of you shouldn't be doing any more work than you normally would, because your employer should make space for it. So in reality, it isn't 20% of your time every single week. It isn't a day a week, because the course is very much front loaded. So it's slightly more intense, shall we say, at the beginning. And then it's sort of a day a month afterwards. But there is some flexibility, because some of it is kind of self-study, etc. I don't want to use the word homework, but I can't think of a better word, which you can do, I guess, a bit more flexibly. But yeah, the course is front loaded. There are 2 kind of intensive weeks quite near the beginning, which means you sort of banked some of that 20% of the time. But obviously your employer needs to give you the space to complete the course. That's something you need to talk to your line manager about.
Thank you, James. And I think that is all the questions on my screen.
No problem at all. Well, I guess, thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you, Yemi, for hosting.
Thank you very much for coming.
And thanks everyone for your enthusiasm.
Thank you.